Alright, so now we're on the next section where we're going to look at an actual month. January 2018, and the name of the HTML file is jan.html. Again, to show you from the landing page, when we click Jan, that's what comes up right here. So we don't really need to look at the landing page again. We just need to focus on this January 2018 page and the code that helps make it happen. What all do I have open here? This is for February. I don't need that. This. We have a Jan CSS, a Jan HTML, a Jan.js, and then that smile.ico, which you see here and here. So let's look at these three January files. Let's highlight them, right click, and edit with Notepad++. Alright, let's look at the CSS first. Again, I think we've got I think we have some repetition going, but I wanted to have each month in its own folder and each month with its own HTML, JS, and CSS for practice, for code practice purposes. Because we have our own CSS, we could make every single month look a little different. You could either copy and paste the exact same style.css or make changes in every single one. So again, it could all look like this, with the exception of the days being different, or we can try to make it look as totally different as possible by having its own style. Alright, so the table gets these styles in jan.css. The table header gets these styles. The text area gets these styles. Image with an ID of left gets these. Image with an ID of right gets these. The element with the ID of month gets those. And all of these tags that I created, I believe I did use the R tag, color red, font weight bolder. Yes, I did, because you see how the 12 is red and it's bolder, and the 26 is red and it's bolder. Those are tags that I put around these numbers so that it would indicate paydays. And I just made more than one in case I wanted to use red, orange, tan, green, blue, or violet in a simple way with my HTML. Then there's an element that has the class of lime, gets that. And the buttons that have ID save button and ID remove button get this style. Alright, so we're done with our jan.css. Let's look at our jan.js, or JavaScript. Let's see how many functions I've got here. Okay, for my individual January exclusive JavaScript file, I have a function called save my stuff, another one called load my stuff, another one called remove my stuff, and another one called list my bills. That's when I click this list bills, we get that box, and then all of this happens. List my bills function is what makes all of this happen. Turns red and changes what bill is expected on what day. Okay, let's look at, what do I want to look at first? Let's look at save my stuff. Everything in green is just a note. It doesn't execute. It's just a note for the programmer to understand what the statement below it is doing. So function save my stuff. The note says call function to colorize buttons. So I have a function called colorize save, and we'll look at that later. Then I'm going to create some variables. Here I create var k and var values with a z. So those are two variables we created. Now we're going to loop some stuff, because with looping you are minimizing code. You're optimizing your code and you're making it less redundant. Loops are great. So we start off for, and in parentheses var I equals 1, I less than or equal to 31, I plus plus. So for 31 times, we're going to do all of these instructions. Instead of writing these instructions 31 times, the loop will run them 31 times for us. Much better idea. So in the curly braces, we have k, which we created up here, set to the string kjan plus I. So in the first iteration of the loop, I is going to equal 0. So kjan1 is going to be put into the variable k. So anywhere else that you see the variable k, depending on where we are in the iteration of the loops, it'll have a different value. Then we have IDZ, IDs, set equal to jan plus I. So the first iteration will be, the value of IDZ will be jan1. The second loop iteration, the value of IDZ will be jan2, and so on and so forth. After that, we have this statement, values equals document.getElementById, parentheses, IDs dot value. And then lastly, we have local storage dot set item, and in parentheses, we're going to set a key value pair. That's how local storage works. The key is simply the variable k, followed by a comma, and then the value is indicated by the variable called values. So there's the end of that loop. The next thing we do in this function is we're going to, I can't do that, call an outside function in 2 seconds. So we're going to use set timeout, and in parentheses, we're in 2 seconds, we are going to call the refresh me function. So set timeout, parentheses, refresh me, comma, 2000. That's the end of save my stuff. So with that being said, let's just close it, and let's look at the next function. Let's look at load my stuff. Okay, so function load my stuff. The note to self is create variables. So we create 2 variables, var k and var storeds. Then we're going to loop some stuff, and here's our for loop. For var I equals 1, I less than or equal to 31, I plus plus, opening curly brace followed by k equals kjan plus I, and IDs equals jan plus I, and then storeds equals local storage dot get item, and in parentheses k. So the value of the key that is being looped, we want to get the value and put it into this variable called storeds. Stored with a Z at the end. Alright, at line 32, the note says load stuff that was saved in local storage. So now we have an if condition. If, and then the variable storeds, if there's a value for the variable storeds, if this is true, that there is a value for it, then we're going to do this statement right here, these 2 statements. Document.getElementById, IDs.value equals storeds, and document.getElementById, parentheses, IDs dot set attribute, and in parentheses and double quotes we have class, comma, lime. This statement saves whatever you type, and this statement saves the background color of the particular text area that you're saving a value to. It gives the background color a lime or light green color. Alright, there's the end of the for loop and the end of the function called load my stuff. With that, let's close load my stuff, and let's look at remove my stuff. So in the function remove my stuff, we will colorize the buttons by calling colorize remove. We will loop stuff by creating a variable var k. Here's our for loop for var I equals 1, I less than or equal to 31, I plus plus. K equals the string kjan plus I, and then local storage dot remove item, parentheses k. That ends the loop. Then my note here says call an outside function in 2 seconds. So we use set timeout, and in parentheses we will call the refresh me function in 2000 milliseconds, which is 2 seconds. There's the end of the remove my stuff function. So let's close that up, and let's look at list my bills. So we've looked at these 3 functions. Let's look at function list my bills. Again, if I refresh this, you see hard-coded stuff, which I haven't went over until I go over the last file. But when I hit ListBills, all of this other stuff in red pops up. So we're going to learn how to do that by creating this function called ListByBills. First of all, when I'm creating a function, I frequently use alert pop-ups so that I know where I am in my code, what's running at what time. So I created an alert that says ListBills here. After that, we're going to clear out the hard-coded placeholders, which are all of these things. We're going to clear that out. We're going to use a for loop. For I equals 1, I less than or equal to 31, I plus plus. Document.getElement by ID, in parentheses, the string Jan plus I dot placeholder equals an empty string. These are placeholders that you see: rent, car insurance, cell phones, AEP, and car and Netflix. Those are placeholder values that you'll see when I look at this jan.html file. And this is how you empty it. The placeholder equals an empty string. After we clear out all the text areas, we're going to create a variable. var msg, short for message, is set to an empty string. Then we're going to loop through stuff and create values for certain text areas. So our for loop is the same as it's ever been. For I equals 1, I less than or equal to 31, I plus plus. Then we have an if condition. We've got multiple if conditions because depending on the if condition, we are going to take our variable msg and give it a different value. So if I, which is the increment, is equal to 1, which means it's the first iteration of the loop, the value for MSG is going to be rent. Well, that's what you see here if I hit ListBills. See, it's rent. Else if, in parentheses, I double equals 2, message will be set to the string electric. And you can see right here. So we did one else if. The next else if I is equal to 3, then the message will have the value of car, as you can see right here. Else if I equals 4, message equals phone. Else if I double equals 5, message equals Philly. Else if I equals 6, message equals restaurant. Else if I equals 7, message equals it's Sunday. So everywhere that I read, you can see rent, electric, car, phone, Philly, restaurant, it's Sunday. Now, if none of those if conditions are true, then we're not talking about these particular text areas. We're talking about everything else. So we have else, message equals nada. Again, if I just take the nada out and make that an empty string, else message equals that, it'll be blank. Like ListBills here. See, this is only temporarily reminding us using JavaScript of what these bills are and where we want them. Otherwise, we haven't named these other iterations, so message is set to nothing. Okay, the next little note to self is for message depending on specific element. And we do that with this. Document.getElement by ID, parentheses, the string Jan plus I, dot placeholder equals MSG. So here MSG was rent, here MSG was an empty string. I don't know why that did that. That's really weird. Okay, and here's the next note. For font's color or boldness changes to remind you which function is being executed right now. So I wanted to see the difference visually between the gray capitalized bill reminders to when I click ListBills and JavaScript creates it. I wanted to see it look totally different. So here they're not capital, they're in red, and the two ways, and they're going to be bold. So document.getElement by ID, parentheses, the string Jan plus I, dot style, dot color equals red, and document.getElement by ID, parentheses, the string Jan plus I, dot style, dot font weight equals bold. We're almost done. Then I have a note to self that says document.getElementById by ID, and in parentheses the string jan plus I dot value equals I. If I did it that way, just for testing purposes, so let's comment it and refresh. These again are hard-coded values that's in this that we'll look at last. But when I click list bills, this statement right here, document.getElementById by ID jan plus I dot value equals I, the ID of the element is now showing inside the text area. And what's nice about doing this is quickly at a glance, when I hit save, it shows that every single one of my text areas are functioning properly with the function. There's nothing misspelled, there's nothing wrong with my loops, and it's all working. And I don't have to keep typing something in here and hit tab and type until I fill out all 31 text areas. I can just force them all to just show their IDs. So this is automating my debugging. Okay, but I don't really need that. I'll just comment it out. It's something I can use in the future. Let's remove it all. And now we're back. Okay, so here's the end of the loop, and here's the end of the function list bills. With that, we have went over all of the JavaScript that's exclusive just to January. Now there's a catch. Before I dig into the jan.html web page itself, there's actually more JavaScript going on here. As you can see, when we have our opening HTML, and this is for jan.html, opening head, and then we've got a link that points to the smile icon so that it's up here in the tab, and then we got a title that says January 2018 that's in the tab. We have a link that's pointing to out of the folder into a folder called all, pointing to a file called style.css. That's one CSS that we're looking at. Then script type equals text / JavaScript source equals. Again, we're going in out of the folder we're in into a folder called all and pointing to all.js. Then we have script type equals text / JavaScript source equals jan.js, and closing script. So we have two JavaScript files, one called all.js and one called jan.js. I just went over the 4 or 5 functions that belong to jan.js, but I need to show you the file all.js as well, because there are JavaScript functions in all.js that apply to every month, not just January. It applies to February all the way through December. It's not exclusive to only one page. It's shared among all pages. That's why I named it all.js. All right. There's the end of the head and the opening body tag. I guess I might as well just read jan.html and then look at that secondary JavaScript, because I'm already reading this. Body unload equals load my stuff. So when this jan.html is first opened up, it's going to call the load my stuff function. Inside of the body tag, we have a table, table row, table header with an ID of month and a call span of 7. That image that's similar to what we've seen already, January 2018, input. Type equals button, ID equals list button, btn. Value equals list bills. Now we're talking about this right here. On click equals, when we click this list bills button, two functions are being called. One's called colorize list bills, and the other is called list my bills. Okay, so that's that first button. The second button, input type equals button, ID equals save button, value equals save, and on click equals save my stuff. So when we click this save button, it's only going to call one function called save my stuff. The third button is right here, and input type equals button, ID equals remove button, value equals remove, on click equals remove everything. The style is misspelled and disabled is misspelled so that we can always see this button. Image ID equals right, source equals smile.ico, alt equals smiley, title equals smiley, and height equals 22. So if I hover over this image, it says smiley for the title. If anything were to happen and this would break, the alt would still say smiley as well, and we've set the height to 22. If I misspell height, we will get the actual size of this, which, see how much bigger it got? Obviously I don't want that, so I'm forcing the height smaller than it really is. So you can force the height smaller or larger. End of your TH, end of your TR. Here's an opening TR for the next row, and we've got a bunch of table headers. Table header for Sunday, which you can see here, and Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the end of the table row. Then we have week 1. This is just a comment to self. Opening table row, table data cell, followed by the table data tag, followed by the number 31. And here's a text area inside, which is disabled. Then you end your table data cell. That's giving us this number 31 and this text area, which is grayed out, which you can click on it and you cannot do anything. It's disabled. The next table data cell, we've got the number 01, followed by a text area. Now these text areas between the 1st and the 31st belong to January, and so I'm not going to disable them because I want to be able to go in here and type. Placeholder equals rent. Let me remove that again. See how you see rent vague, lightly in there? That's because of placeholder set to rent. And text area and TD. Here's the next TD. O2, text area ID equals Jan2, placeholder equals empty, empty string, and your text area tag ending your TD. And for the third, we have TD, O3, text area ID equals Jan3, placeholder equals an empty string, ending text area, and a ending TD. And we just do that for the first week, all the way to January 6th. Then we have our ending TR tag, which closes that table row. A note to self for week 2. We do the same stuff. We just make sure that our table's going along accurately. TD for the 7th, TD for the 8th, for the 9th, for the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, and the 13th. As you can see, this number 12 is being encompassed by that homemade R tag that I made. Opening R, 12, closing R. And if you remember, the style that I gave this was a background color, or a color of red. So the 12th is red and the 26th is red to indicate paydays. Alright, and that's for the 13th. And there's the ending table row and the comment week 3 and the opening table row, which does the same thing that the previous row did. Then we've got week 4, which does the same thing the previous row did. We've got more placeholders here. On January 23rd, we gave it a placeholder of car space pipe space Netflix, just so that I know there's 2 bills on that day. 24th, 25th, 26th, again 26 has the R tags around it, the homemade R tags. 27, ending TR, comment week 5, opening TR. And this row goes from the 28th, 29th, 30, 31. And then when we get to the first, we're talking about of the next month. So we want to start disabling the text area for the first, the second, the third. All right, ending table row, ending table, ending body, ending HTML. So that's all the code that gives us this calendar. And I already looked at a CSS and a JavaScript, but I have another JavaScript I need to show you. So we dealt with all of these inside of the folder called Jan 2018, but we have a few things we need to look at from the all folder. And we have a JavaScript file here, all.js. So we're going to edit with Notepad++ and look at the functions that are shared among every month. Colorize save. Let's open function colorize save. Colorize the save button. Got two statements here. Document.getElementById, parentheses, double quote save button, dot style, dot background color equals lime. And document.getElementById, parentheses, and double quote save button, dot value equals the string saved. And that's it for function colorize save. Close that. Let's look at function colorize remove. Then you're going to see a pattern. Colorize remove button. Document.getElementById, parentheses, double quotes remove button, dot style, dot background color equals lime. And document.getElementById, parentheses, double quotes remove button, dot value equals removed. Then we have function colorize ListBills. Now we're going to colorize the ListBills button. Document.getElementById, parentheses, double quotes list button, dot style, dot background color equals lime. And document.getElementById, parentheses, double quotes list button, dot value equals listed. Then we're going to use our set timeout, and in parentheses we're going to call a function called default color, and we're going to call that in 2000 seconds. Now let's look at the function default color. So this is a function inside a function. It's going to get called after 2 seconds. Function default color. Document.getElementById, parentheses, and double quotes list button, dot style, dot background color equals yellow. And document.getElementById, parentheses, double quotes list button, dot value equals list bills. Here's the closing default color curly brace, and this curly brace is closing the colorize ListBills function itself. So you see this default color function is inside. It's nested inside of colorize ListBills function. All right, with that, let's close this up. Let's look at the function refresh me. It's really nice and easy. This is going to force a page refresh, and you do that with window.location.reload, parentheses true. And finally, function remove everything. We're going to create a variable, var x. We're going to let the user make a decision if, parentheses confirm, parentheses the string. This will delete the entire grid, \n. Do you really want to delete everything? So this is all like in a condition because it's in the parentheses. And then we have double equals true, which means this entire thing is the condition. Now in the confirm box, if you click OK, then you're going to do what's in these parentheses, which not parentheses, curly braces, which is x equals all deleted, and then we're going to call the function called remove my stuff. If, on the other hand, when the confirm box says this will delete the entire grid, you really want to delete everything. If you hit cancel, then we're going to go to the else, and x is going to be valued at OK, nothing is deleted. So there's the closing to the else. After the if and else blocks execute, we have this final line of code to alert the value of x. which is either going to be all deleted or okay, nothing is deleted. So now we're going to end the function move everything, remove everything, and that finishes all of the shared functions. Doesn't matter what month you're on, colorize save is going to be identical. Colorize remove is going to be identical. Colorize list bills is going to be identical. Refresh me is going to be identical. And function remove everything is going to be identical. No changes, so we don't need to be redundant and have these copied over and over and over. We just don't need to do that. Okay, with that being said, I don't think I've left anything out. So I'm going to close this video up, and I think I'm about ready to go to sleep. I'm tired.